You know, the Batman Arkham games have always had a bit of a darker side to them. I mean, I first played through this series when I was a little kid, and getting chased around by Killer Croc, jump scared by Man-Bat, hunted down by TN1 Bane.
You in the event again?
Yeah, all of these moments were scary enough to stick with me for years. But even though stuff like Scarecrow fake crashing your game does a great job at freaking you out in the moment, it's also not exactly subtle. And I'd argue that these creepy moments throughout the Batman Arkham series are actually at their best when they're not thrown in your face at all. Because when it's just tiny details buried around Gotham, little things tucked into alleyways, audio logs, or background spaces meant to make your skin crawl, that's where the most disturbing stuff is actually hiding. So today, me and you are going to be exploring that side because I've gathered 10 subtle secrets. Things that reveal some genuinely dark truths about the characters, lore, storylines, everything. So grab some food and sit back because trust me, this is going to be a good one. And let's get started with number 1. Batman's many stalkers. While playing the Arkham games, have you ever gotten that weird feeling that someone's watching you? Well, that's because they usually are. One of the creepiest recurring themes across the entire franchise is the fact that you, as Batman, are never truly alone. No matter where you are or what you're doing, there's almost always somebody lurking in the shadows tracking your every move. And the interesting part is that the games typically don't tell you this directly. They show it to you through all these subtle little details tucked into the environment. So here's one example from every single Arkham game. In Arkham Asylum, you can find these weird plant-like tendrils all over the botanical gardens. At a first glance, we don't really know what these are or what they do, but Poison Ivy's clearly using them for something. But hold on, if we throw a batarang at one of them, it will actually shrivel up and release smoke into the air. They function exactly like the normal cameras set up all over Arkham Island. So this must be Ivy's version of a surveillance system, where she's using these plants to stalk Batman and have them report back to her in regards to your whereabouts. In Arkham City, when we're literally first thrown into the prison as Bruce Wayne, if you look closely, there seems to be some sort of figure watching us from up above on top of this vantage point. Yep, that's Azrael.
I have been watching you, Batman, to see if you are ready.
In Arkham Origins, there's 8 different assassins after our head, and they all have different methods to try and accomplish this. Some of the assassins try to get Batman's attention and draw us out, like Shiva and Firefly. A couple of the other assassins, like Electrocutioner and Bane, wait for Batman to come to them, but people like Deathstroke and Copperhead, they just pop out of nowhere when you'd least expect them. So one can assume that they've been secretly tracking us across Gotham City,
Amateur night in Gotham,
waiting for the perfect moment to strike this entire time. Creepy to think about, but how else would they have found us if they weren't actively hunting Batman down from a distance? They wouldn't have. In Arkham Knight, if we head inside of the militia headquarters, Jason Todd has an entire wall showing that he's been stalking Bruce for a while now, quietly tracking him long before the events of Arkham Knight, planning his revenge on Batman. I mean, take a look at the main picture here. He even managed to get inside of Arkham City and was watching you from a vantage point during this entire conversation you had with Robin. Finally, probably the creepiest of them all, in Arkham Shadow, there's a black, shadowy figure that stalks you from a distance throughout certain moments of the story. Like here, when we're first entering Blackgate as an inmate, we can spot him all the way over there on top of the gargoyle right before he vanishes into thin air. See what I mean? Even when you think you're alone, you aren't. Somewhere, something is lurking in the shadows, potentially taking pictures, maybe videos, studying you as much as possible by stalking your every move. And honestly, I think that creates a really disturbing atmosphere. But hey, it also makes it all the more interesting when the roles are reversed in Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Instead of playing as Batman where we're used to the villains always spying on us, now we're on the other end and evil Batman's the one doing the stalking, gathering intel for Brainiac while planning his attack. Number 2. Batman couldn't stop Zsasz from making a new mark. If it wasn't already obvious after tons of breakdown videos, cut content, and more, I think Victor Zsasz is one of the most interesting characters across these games. So, in my eyes, it feels only right for us to include him in a video like this by showing off just how messed up this dude truly is, okay? Okay. In Batman Arkham City, when you first answer the ringing payphone to start Zsasz's whole side mission, he'll tell you this.
From where I'm standing, I can see 3 little piggies just waiting for me to cure them of life. Right now, somewhere in Arkham City, there's a phone ringing. I know it's a big place, but you need to find it. Take too long, and I kill these piggies.
Yep, he's holding 3 little piggies, aka 3 hostages for us to save. Make sure you keep that number in the very back of your mind, it's gonna end up being pretty important. Anyways, after we successfully go through Zsasz's entire little game that he has planned out for Batman of chasing payphones across the city, listening to his rants, and learning more about him, we're eventually able to pinpoint his location, an abandoned warehouse at the industrial district. So we head over there, go inside, and everything looks to be as Zsasz described it to us, right?
Your life is over. Accept it and prepare yourselves to sink into the oblivion of nothing.
Except, take a closer look at the cages. Zsasz is only holding 2 hostages, one on the left side of the room, and a second on the other side that he paces back and forth between. So what happened to that 3rd little piggy? Was he able to escape the building somehow? Did Zsasz potentially let him go for some reason? What the heck happened? Well, if we turn detective vision on, I think we finally get our answer. Taking a look down below the water, there appears to be somebody lying at the very bottom. This guy is obviously labeled as deceased, and using a free cam mod, we can confirm that it was in fact a political prisoner, exactly like Zsasz's other 2 hostages. Yeah, looks like Batman was a little late to the party this time, because it seems all but implied here that Zsasz killed the 3rd innocent political prisoner that he was holding captive. And considering that when you're sneaking throughout his hideout, you can overhear Zsasz say this,
You're probably praying I will end your lives quickly. I won't.
one can assume that the poor guy was probably tortured by Victor in unspeakable ways before getting body dumped into the water. Yep, pretty dark. When you actually think about this though, Zsasz specifically told us that he was only going to kill one of his hostages if Batman didn't reach a payphone in time. So did Batman canonically fail one of these phone calls even if you as the player technically didn't? Meaning that this guy would still be alive and well rather than dead at the bottom of a flooded building if Bruce had just been a little quicker?
I'm going to take my time, Batman. After all, you took yours.
Or did everything go as planned and it was just Zsasz not being able to control his psychotic impulses, breaking his own rules to the game and killing a hostage before Batman ever even had the chance to track him down? That part's still a pretty creepy mystery if you ask me, so let me know what you think happened here, because it's definitely still fun to speculate.
I've been in that cage for a week.
Number 3. Joker can be seen watching you before the big reveal. One of my absolute favorite creepy details in Arkham Knight has to be one that occurs pretty early on into the game at the end of the whole Ace Chemicals mission. So, as we know, once you reach the central mixing chamber to confront Scarecrow, Oracle gets kidnapped, Crane escapes, and Batman tries to lessen the blast to save Gotham, right? In doing so though, he's exposed to a ton of fear toxin, which in turn...
Miss me?
But hold on. Even though the Joker jump scare seems to come out of nowhere, just a few moments prior to this, there's a very subtle detail that basically reveals that no, he didn't come out of nowhere. He's been watching you this entire time. During the whole stealth section leading up to all this, we get a glimpse of something that's seriously unsettling. Scarecrow's huge shadow casting across the wall as he moves around in a room we can't quite access just yet until after we clear the enemies, right? And at first, everything seems normal. It's clearly Crane casting the shadow, you can see his large hood on, and his size matches up perfectly. But wait, when he leans over for a short moment, if you watch closely, it's possible to notice a tiny twitch in his movement. And suddenly, there's a change. His head is different. The hood's no longer there. His face stretches unnaturally long and thin. That's not Scarecrow anymore. It's the Joker. That unmistakable silhouette grinning at you through the shadow, completely replacing Crane's form. He stays like this for around 10 seconds, and then, with another subtle twitch, his head snaps back into looking like Scarecrow again, almost as if nothing ever happened. But hold on, something did happen, and we're not taking crazy pills here. If we use mods to get a glimpse inside of the room to confirm, we can clearly see that Scarecrow's head does in fact morph into the Joker from time to time, changing the shape of the shadow casting against the wall. Yeah, how creepy is that? Is this not the most cursed thing you've seen all day? What I find really cool about this detail though is that it basically foreshadows the whole Joker in Batman's mind plot twist moments before it ever even happens. I mean, the only other time these Joker hallucinations are even hinted to us is way back in Arkham City after you defeat Mr. Freeze. And unlike the Arkham City one that kinda throws it in your face, this time around, Batman's hallucination is so dang subtle that most of you probably never even realized that you saw Joker seconds before the actual reveal. Number 4. Quincy Sharp's fate was foreshadowed from the very beginning. Now, across the Batman Arkham series, Quincy Sharp is one of the most powerful political figures we ever meet. In Arkham Asylum, he's the warden, running the entire facility, and trying to cure the criminally insane so that he can make himself look better for his mayoral campaign.
Joker is our most challenging patient. Curing him will cement my reputation.
Then, by the time Arkham City rolls around, we find out that, yeah, he got elected as the mayor of Gotham now, and he also happens to be the guy responsible for signing off on this completely brutal and totally inhumane prison. But, as we later discover, he was never really in control of anything. You see, once we dig a little deeper into all of the lore stuff, it becomes pretty clear that Sharp is nothing more than a puppet, put into positions of power specifically so that Hugo Strange and Ra's al Ghul can manipulate him, pull the strings from behind the scenes, and use him as the public face of their entire master plan.
All I had to do was set up Arkham City and put Strange in charge. It made perfect sense!
In fact, they went a tad bit further than just manipulation, because it's actually revealed that Strange had been dosing Quincy with the same hypnosis stuff he used on the Tiger Guards, mind controlling him into thinking that Hugo was his master, doing everything he's told to do, and barely being able to function without the whispers in his ear.
It is late, Mr. Mayor. You are tired. You need your sleep.
Of course, I need my sleep.
You will hang up now.
Yeah, combine that with the fact that Quincy already has underlying schizophrenia and a split personality disorder, believing that he was somehow possessed by the spirit of Amadeus Arkham.
My name is Quincy Sharp, the spirit of Amadeus Arkham.
Things didn't exactly end well for him. In Arkham Knight, we can find this riddle of an old campaign advertisement plastered on this building, and scanning it will reveal a very interesting story for us to read. Apparently, not long after Arkham City, Sharp was locked up for his crimes against Gotham, where Hugo Strange paid him one final visit. Okay, not in a literal sense, Strange was quite dead, but rather in the form of a hallucination, showing just how far gone Quincy truly was by this point. And after a bit of conversation between the two, Strange orders him to remove the sheets from his bed, tie it to the light fixture on the ceiling, and I think you can figure out how things ended for Sharp from there. It's tragic, disturbing, and honestly one of the darkest ends for any character in this series. But here's the really creepy part. There might have been foreshadowing for Sharp's fate all the way back at the very beginning of Arkham Asylum. When we're escorting Joker through intensive treatment, we eventually reach this hallway where the doctor will stop us to do a checkup on the patient, everything going as normal. Except, if you look up, we can see a huge poster that says Quincy Sharp, voice of Arkham, with a huge silhouette of his head on the right. And just a little bit closer to us, it's kinda hard to see, but there's clearly a single lone strand of rope dangling from the ceiling. Funnily enough, when you look at where that rope is positioned from exactly the angle the game forces us to stop at, yeah, it hangs right over Quincy Sharp's neck. Wow. Super subtle, incredibly easy to miss, and could very well be a total coincidence, but if it somehow was intentional, and when you connect it to what eventually happens to Sharp in Arkham Knight, this would be some of the craziest foreshadowing I have ever seen. I mean, to think that from the very beginning of this series, long before Arkham City, long before he had fully descended into madness, long before we ever even knew what Hugo Strange or Ra's al Ghul were plotting, there was already this tiny, creepy hint that Quincy Sharp's story would end exactly the way it did. And honestly, that might be one of the darkest hidden details in the entire Arkham franchise. Number 5. Anarky's strange disappearance. So remember Anarky, the guy from Arkham Origins who tried to spark a revolution by calling out Gotham's corruption, rallying followers, and planting bombs to take down the city's rich elite? Well, after Batman dismantles all 3 of Anarky's explosives, you confront him in the courthouse, stop his little cult, and leave him all tied up for the cops to haul away. But hold on, after he's taken into police custody, nothing, not a whisper word is said from Anarky. I mean, throughout all of the later games, he's never seen, heard from, or makes any kind of appearance ever again. It's as if he doesn't exist, which is very off-putting for such a vocal and influential character. So what happened to him? Where did he go? Is he even still alive? Well, many, including me, have been left to speculate about his strange disappearance. Maybe he's been locked away somewhere by the government? Cash seems to imply that in Arkham Knight's evidence locker.
One mask and jacket worn by Anarky, aka Lonnie Machin. I wasn't even a cop when this kid tried to hit Gotham. No one's seen him since. No one knows where they're keeping him. I guess the government don't like anarchists too much.
Maybe Killer Croc attacked and killed him on the outskirts of Panessa Studios? After all, there seems to be evidence of an attack here, with the railing being pulled off and the large claw marks ingrained into the wall. Not to mention that there's an Anarky symbol right below the ledge, almost as if Lonnie had spray painted it here moments prior. And Killer Croc's lair is very close to this location as well, so it lines up. Or maybe even someone like the Court of Owls, an organization made up of Gotham's rich and corrupt, who are the very people Anarky had dedicated his life to calling out, sent a Talon after Anarky to silence him for good? Well, thanks to a couple hidden details in Batman Arkham Shadow, we might have finally gotten our answer. When you first meet up with Gordon at the beginning of the game and go inside of a GCPD room called the Pigsty, you have a little chat with Harvey and Jim about the Rat King, and then leave, never to return back here. What's interesting about this conversation, though, is that you can notice some sort of folder lying on the desk that Harvey picks up, takes a look, closes, and then carries with him out the door when he leaves the room. Well, if you take a peek at it while Harvey is holding it open, it's clearly a folder on Lonnie Machin, none other than Anarky. The folder not only reveals that Anarky is the suspected Rat King by the GCPD, but it also confirms that Anarky escaped custody before his trial, around a month after he was first captured in Arkham Origins, and he's been missing ever since. That's not the last we hear of Anarky in this game though, oh no. If you make your way over to this area in the yard, you'll be able to hear a radio show hosted by Vic Sage, and if you listen in, you'll notice that the guest speaker is none other than Anarky himself.
A stimulating discussion with our regular caller Lonnie, who, as usual, is bogged down with his crusade against the 1%.
You said it yourself, Vic. The rat attacks are false flag operations. Who benefits from these fools thinking that going to prison is a revolutionary act? Bruce Wayne, Kate Kane, the Elliots, the Cobblepots? The rich. Obviously, one of them's your Rat King.
I'm not saying Gotham's first families are angels. I think my reporting on the secret cabal running Gotham makes that clear. The beach on Founders Island has fewer shells than Wayne Enterprises. Any number of Gotham's power mongers and control freaks could be your Rat King.
Like that new commissioner? Gordon?
Gordon's too much of a masochist. The new guy running Blackgate, though? Pure sadist. And his head shrink, Crane? Same deal. Don't forget, greed's a powerful motivator. Harvey Dent's crusading for a second term, and with Falcone locked up, Tony Zuko's primed to snuff out any small-time leftovers.
Vic, why not list the Gotham phone book while you're at it? This might sound funny coming from me, but not everything is a conspiracy. I mean, you start from solid foundations, but then you take things too far. Like your Gotham Illuminati and their zombie assassins?
No, I never said they were zombies. They were pumped so full of drugs, they kept coming after you shot them. The GCPD's redacted files spell it out, Lonnie. Now, I am done being insulted by some coward with a voice changer. No more questions from you. We're done.
What I find really interesting about this whole conversation is the fact that Anarky directly brings up the Gotham Illuminati and their zombie assassins, definitely referring to the Court of Owls. Like we were talking about, it seems very plausible that the court sent a Talon after Anarky to obviously silence him at some point within the Arkhamverse, especially since we've already seen a lot of proof of their existence in Arkham Origins, including the Talon statues and the classic Court of Owls nursery rhyme. So, this very deliberate dialogue coming directly from Anarky where he sort of mocks the court, I would say that it all but confirms it in a fourth wall break type of way, which is very disturbing. Number 6. The lingering impact of Jason Todd's torture. To say that Jason Todd, Batman's second Robin, was a victim to a lot of trauma in this universe would be a serious understatement. I mean, after being kidnapped by the Joker, Jason was tortured in Arkham Asylum for well over a year. Physically, psychologically, emotionally, all of the above, until he was completely broken and remade into something new.
My name is Jason Todd.
Who do you hate?
Batman.
Something hateful.
I trusted you! And you just left me to die!
Something fueled by revenge.
You left me to rot in that abandoned wing of Arkham for over a year! With him.
It's a pretty dark story, but I don't want to focus on the core aspects because you already know that. So instead, I want to focus on a few of the subtle, creepy details that are easy to miss, but reveal so much more about what Jason truly went through while he was locked away in Arkham Asylum by the Joker. So for starters, when you actually use Jason as a playable character, Arkham Knight or Red Hood, it doesn't matter, you'll notice that when you slow walk with him, he has a pretty big hunch to his back for some reason. What could possibly be the explanation for that? Well, I know everybody likes to just say he's aura farming, but no, he's not, okay? This weird walking style actually makes total sense lore-wise for Jason to do and has a much darker explanation than you probably think. You see, when Jason was being held captive within the asylum, Joker liked to strap him down in a wheelchair. The problem with this? Well, for Jason, Joker had barbed wire wrapped tightly around his torso, so every time he leaned back in that chair, it would dig through his armor and into his skin. So, naturally, Jason tried to avoid this pain by constantly leaning forward. This way, the barbed wire wouldn't press against the chair and tear into his back, which in the moment I'm sure worked out better for him, although as time progresses and your normal posture continues to stay like this for days, weeks, months, and eventually well over a year, yeah, unfortunately it caused the poor guy to develop a permanent hunch in his back moving forward, something that stays with him everywhere he goes, a physical reminder of the pain and torture he endured at Arkham. Yikes. Like I said, pretty dark lore reason for what most people see as nothing more than a cool walking animation. Speaking of physical reminders though, let's take a look at our next creepy detail regarding Jason. So remember how Joker essentially marked Jason by burning his initial, the letter J for Joker, directly onto his face? Yet another message to Batman that Jason was all his now?
Did you get that, Bats? Kid's not yours anymore. He's mine. Mine.
Well, there's actually a lot more to this disturbing aspect if we take a closer look. Alright, so during the opening scene of Arkham Knight at Polly's Diner, we obviously run into a masked figure sitting in the corner that ends up enacting Scarecrow's whole demonstration. I know there's some speculation on who this guy is, I've even talked about how maybe this could be Anarky, but thanks to the game files, it's pretty much all but confirmed to be Jason Todd, okay? So with that said, we can see that Jason's engraved something into the table here. The letter A, in all likelihood, meant to stand for his new name, Arkham Knight. Now at a first glance, sure, there's not much more to it than that. But wait, when you truly think about this one, Jason's behavior here actually seems to mirror what Joker did to him, doesn't it? I mean, Joker branded his identity onto Jason, marking him, claiming him, breaking him down until there was nothing left. So when Jason carves his new initial, the letter A, into the table, and keep in mind this is our very first impression of his character in this game, so it's definitely not random, it's hard not to see the parallel. By doing this, he's basically replacing Joker's mark with his own. It's like he's taken that trauma, that identity forced on him, and reshaped it into something new. Sure, it's a constant reminder of what was done to him, definitely, but it's also a subtle detail meant to symbolize how he's embraced and inherited it for himself. That he's become something darker, something born out of Joker's cruelty. A new identity he carries with him as he hunts for the ultimate revenge on Batman for leaving him to die. So what do you think? Am I right, or am I seriously overlooking a single letter scratched into a random table? Let me know. Number 7. A trainee guard's horrible fate. In Batman Arkham Asylum, when the game first begins and you're escorting Joker through intensive treatment, you pass by a lot of guards on the way, right? And well, that's because security at the asylum is on high alert for Joker's big arrival. Nobody wants him pulling another stunt like the last time he was here.
I want him securely locked away this time. Another escape and I will lose support for my mayoral campaign.
Now, among these many guards though, one of them really stands out from the rest. That would be this young man that you meet right after the whole power outage sequence in the elevator. When we first walk up to him, he tells us this.
I saw what you did back there. Couldn't you have just squeezed his neck a little harder? Would have been better for everyone.
And if we take a look at his special ID badge on his uniform, we learn that his name is Thomas Armbruster. Now, Thomas also happens to be a trainee working here, which kinda explains why he's stationed in the very back of the room, hiding behind multiple other security members. But anyways, right before you leave to start escorting Joker again, he'll say one more thing to Batman.
My wife was on the phone when the lights went out. She's freaking out. Wants me to quit this place.
Well, he probably should have listened to his wife. Fast forward much later into the game when we're making our way through the botanical gardens trying to find the hidden Titan production plant, we eventually run into Joker, who's on the other side of this flooded corridor, where he unfortunately does this to one of the asylum's guards.
Let him go now.
Really? Okay, if you say so, Bat.
No!
But hold on, this isn't just any guard. If we take a closer look at this guy's badge, it clearly says Thomas Armbruster. Yeah, that same guy we talked to in intensive treatment, the one who wished we had killed Joker in the elevator so that everybody would have been better off. We had to watch Joker electrocute him to death here. I mean, this is just such a depressing, subtle detail in my eyes. If this was just another nameless guard like a lot of the other Joker victims, it wouldn't be so bad, but the fact that it's actually somebody we've met before, it makes his death hit so much harder. Thomas was just a trainee working here, married, probably wanting to start a family, and instead, he ended up meeting his fateful demise that very night in one of the most brutal ways you could possibly imagine. But wait, there's actually a way to save him. You see, instead of heading up directly into this room to confront Joker, if we first go to the generator room, you can actually shut off the power cords, even though that's completely out of order of what the game tells you to do. So, since the power's already been fully shut off at this point, when you go to finally confront Joker now, this electrified water sequence won't even happen. An entirely new cutscene will take its place.
This rate, you'll never catch me!
Notice how Thomas is nowhere to be seen? That's because he's no longer Joker's hostage. He's absent, which means his death never occurs. According to the Arkham Wiki, Thomas apparently finds a safe place to hide, and then even reappears again at the end of the game among other survivors. Now, I don't know if that's 100% accurate because sometimes the wiki gets things wrong, but either way, I think it's really interesting that you have the option to save this guard here. Number 8. Killer Croc is always hiding in the sewers. If I had a nickel for every time Arkhamverse Croc makes a secret appearance within Gotham's sewer system, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice, right? Throughout the Batman Arkham series, Killer Croc shows up as a main threat pretty often. Arkham Asylum, Arkham Origins, Arkham Knight, heck, he's even one of the few characters in Arkham VR. But in the few games that he doesn't play a big role in, yeah, chances are if you wander far enough into the sewers, you're going to find him lurking down there somewhere. Take Arkham City for example, most players never see him at all, but after the whole Ra's al Ghul boss fight in Wonder City, if you decide to just completely ignore where the game tells you to go and instead backtrack all the way through the sewers, you might happen to stumble across this confrontation.
You are not welcome here.
I'm not here to fight you, Croc. Let me pass.
Your scent is different. I smell death on you. I don't need to fight you, Batman. I just need to wait, and then I will feed on your corpse.
Then, in Arkham Shadow, I kid you not, it literally happens again. At the very beginning of the game, when you're making your way through the sewer tunnels, right before you enter the room where you have your very first combat encounter, walk over to the left side and get close to this grate. Pretty creepy, right? And what makes this specific detail about Killer Croc's character so unsettling to me is the fact that none of the games really draw any attention to it. There's no subtle hints, no indications, no markers on your map telling you that, hey, there's a secret encounter over here, wink wink. Croc is just there if you wander off somewhere you're not supposed to be. He's watching, waiting, living underneath Gotham, and only pops up if you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. So yeah, even when he's not one of the main villains in the story or a DLC, Killer Croc is always down there in the dark, ready to snatch up anyone who wanders too deep. Number 9. Black Mask's office is a torture chamber. When it comes to Roman Sionis, there's no doubt that he is one of the most brutal crime lords in Gotham. A guy who not only uses extreme methods of torment to get what he wants, but also enjoys every second of it. So when I tell you that in Arkham Origins, he has his very own torture chamber that he calls an office, filled with some of the most cruel mechanisms known to man, that shouldn't really come as a big surprise to you, but let's explore it anyways. During the mission where we have to make our way through the Sionis steel mill, we eventually reach this office of Black Masks, where Sionis has obviously been tied up and left behind by the Joker, using his own devices against him. Now, while we do get a quick glimpse of this room here and obviously can see the main contraption, we don't have much of a chance to actually examine everything and see just how messed up this place truly is, because most of it's a cutscene, and then by the time that finally ends, we're basically phasing in and out of reality as we quickly rush to try and find a cure for Copperhead's poisoning. Doesn't really leave much time to take in all the details, right? So let's return here again on one of my already completed save files. Heading inside, we can spot a lot of creepy stuff at the very back of the room. There's a bunch of literal skulls on display, some pretty disturbing portraits hanging above the fireplace, and also a music player on this table, presumably to drown out the screams of Black Mask's victims so they won't be heard at all. Now as we make our way over to the left side of the office, we kind of move away from the over-the-top disturbing things. It's just a couple of the rejected assassin folders, security cameras, and an absolute boatload of cash lying all around. But of course, we've still got the main attraction, the real horror show, over on the right. Obviously, there's the suspension rack that we've already seen in action, basically designed to strap someone in and hoist them off the ground. Right next to it though, there's a lot of equipment, most notably a giant electrical generator looking thing that is definitely used to torment people, many different sharp instruments strewn across the table, and a very extreme medieval device that I really don't even want to explain here because it is bad, so if you know, you know. That's still not all though, because we've still got tons of cleaning supplies literally everywhere, which given what Black Mask is using this room for, it does make a lot of sense as to why he needs that. And finally, one last thing I noticed is that there's a camera aimed directly at this entire section of the office. So, yep, not only does Black Mask torture his victims in unspeakable ways, he also records these sessions for who knows what, sending pictures and videos to the victims' loved ones so that he can watch them all back himself to get even more satisfaction out of it. Yeah, whichever way you look at it, just the cherry on top. And honestly, while I think these details are super disturbing to a degree, I also think it's really cool to see how they work to create such a unique atmosphere that's, outside of maybe a select few places, is never really replicated in Arkham Origins. There's this grimy, sadistic vibe here, you know? It's uncomfortable, it's off-putting, not just the office itself, but also just Black Mask's entire steel mill in general too. Like, there's some really dark stuff in here, and I love how this entire section of the game kind of plays into more of the horror aspects. Sure, nothing crazy, but definitely creepy. Number 10. Will You Marry Me? A lot of those unsettling feelings you can get while playing a game like Arkham Knight comes from a focus on subtle world building and environmental storytelling. Like, when you see a dirty mattress lying on the ground surrounded by empty food cans, most people fly right on past without ever giving it a second glance because who cares, I'm Batman, I have to go save the city. But if you actually take the time to look, you kinda realize, wow, somebody has to live here in this world, sleeping on the cold, hard rocks on the outskirts of Panessa Studios under a bridge. Looks like they even have a poster for Hell's Gate Waste Disposal, a front company secretly run by Two-Face, kind of implying that they joined up. Or how about when you're gliding over the top of, say, Elliott Memorial Hospital? You likely won't even notice anything out of the ordinary. But if you actually pay close attention, maybe you'll pick up on something. Like, I don't know, an entire freaking story of how a GCPD helicopter crashed into the building, damaged the rudder, and every police officer on board was tragically killed in an accident? This is told to us through nothing more than a couple of scattered environmental details and our own imaginations left to fill in the gaps, and I love that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool. With that said, one of my absolute favorite examples of this creepy open world atmosphere building has to be the Will You Marry Me setup that's located right here on the map. To get here, you have to drive down the long road over by the shipping yard, where you'll eventually notice a small little path that breaks off into a stairwell so you can walk up and explore wherever it may lead. So head all the way up the stairs, and the path will eventually take you to this little secluded spot looking directly over the coastline with a small bench. Now, on this bench lies a bouquet of flowers, 2 glasses and a bottle of wine, a diamond ring, and a sign that reads, "Marry Me." At a first glance, it really doesn't seem like much, but when you stop to think about the implications here, it hits a lot harder. So let me paint you a picture. Somebody in this world wanted to bring their significant other all the way out to the coastline of Gotham City. He probably spent weeks picking out the perfect spot to set up his proposal. Mesmerizing view, peaceful air, nothing but the sound of the wind and the waves crashing beneath them. With him, he brought it all. The flowers, the wine, the ring, the sign, everything to make the moment unforgettable. But, unfortunately for this person, when Scarecrow threatened the entire city,
Gotham, this is your only warning.
Everything changed. That couple, whoever they were forced to evacuate, and they had to leave this, one of their biggest moments of their lives, behind. Out of everything we've talked about today, I think this is the detail that's going to end up sticking with me the most. Not because it's really gruesome or super over the top, but in my mind, this one's so different because it actually feels real. We're so used to seeing the villains leave a negative impact on a citywide scale, or a prison-wide scale, or occasionally even on an entire eastern seaboard scale. So, after 5 games of that, it kinda makes you forget that this world isn't just supposed to be a playground for evil villains. It's a place full of ordinary people whose lives constantly get caught in the crossfire. But details like this, something as small as an abandoned proposal, can remind us what's truly at stake here, and exactly why you, as Batman, keep fighting.